3 of them. Yeah, 3 of them. Yeah, 3. She loves those big balls, so the dog looks really hench. You get a big thick chunk. Welcome back to the Emily Knits channel. My name is Emily. I am a knitter and crocheter in my mid-30s based in the north of Nottinghamshire in the UK, where I live with my husband and our 2 dogs close to Sherwood Forest. What is that one bit of hair doing? Never mind. Welcome back. I've got a traditional format podcast for you today. I'm going to upfront preface this by saying I am trying a different mic out that I hope is going to work out all right. I'm going to, by the time you guys see this, I will have tested this to see if this actually sounds all right. And if not, you won't see it. I'll be on the other mic. But basically, I have some videos coming up where I need a mic like this. I need to not be wired up. I've got some exciting things to film for you. So, yeah. I needed to try it, and obviously it's far better to try now than to try when I'm actually filming those videos, isn't it? So we'll see. Let me know how you found it. I may have had to adjust in the editing a little bit and everything as well. The other thing I was going to mention, which is not as important to you guys, but I am looking a bit more dramatic with the curls than I intended to today. I've tried a different hairspray that I don't normally use, and it's made them quite firm. So I look like I'm supposed to be going out somewhere rather than, apart from this one bit that is doing whatever the hell it likes, and we're just gonna hide him around the back somewhere. So we're not going to talk about him. So please excuse the slightly dramatic hair that is a bit more than it should be for a Sunday morning, but yeah, never mind. Anyway, let's get into it. Where can you find me? You can find me on I'm such a professional podcaster. You can find me on email, Instagram, there we go, that's the one, Ravelry and Ko-fi, all of which will be down below in the description box. I have a Ko-fi and a Ravelry wish list if you would like to support the podcast in any monetary way by buying me a pattern or buying me a coffee on Ko-fi. Are you supposed to say it Ko-fi, or is it, in my head it should be coffee because you buy someone a coffee? Whatever you call it, if you would like to do that, you can. There is no obligation to. I'm always really grateful if any of you do, but just being here, liking, sharing, subscribing, all of those good things, commenting is more than enough for me. So I'll stop waffling and we'll get into it. Hi guys, I'm just popping in and editing to say I'm going to add a caveat. The noise on the mic isn't great, the sound quality on the mic isn't great, and I think it's my own fault. It's because I've got it brushing against my top whilst I'm speaking. As I'm going to reference later in the episode, I would ideally love to refilm this for you guys, but at the moment I'm having quite a lot of problems with my health and with pain, so unfortunately that isn't really an option. So I'm going to put this out there with the caveat that the sound isn't as good as I would normally like it to be. I'm going to do my best to improve it this episode, and then when I'm filming with this mic in future, I will make sure that I'm a little bit more careful about what I have, where I have it and everything. So just bear with me for this episode. The sound will get better in the next one, and thank you very much in advance for your understanding. Thanks guys. Okay, so my framing's adjusted a little bit because I did pause to just go and see if the mic was actually working, and it sounded all right, and it sounds good from what I can tell, so we're all good. But let's get into the podcast. Okay, so let's start off with what I'm wearing, which is, I think, my only finished object this week. I feel like I finished something else, but I can't remember what it is, so it can't have been important, can it? Because anyway, this is a huge finished object, and I'm so pleased with this thing. This is the White Day cardigan, which is a test knit for Maya Deglon of Maya Tinks. I always pause when I say a name, and it's because I can never decide in my head in that moment which to say first, whether to say Maya Tinks or Maya Deglon. Her name is Maya Deglon, so I should say that first. But she has a YouTube podcast, which is Maya Tinks. She also has Instagram presence and everything like that under Maya Tinks. So yeah, I always refer to both. Anyway, waffle. This is coming out in a couple of weeks. This is a top-down saddle. It's a saddle shoulder. going to be one of those days. It's a saddle shoulder construction cardigan knit from these two. Don't do that with the mic. Oh my God. Knit with these two big saddles at the top. You start with these in the middle of the back panel. Let me take it off and I can show you a bit better. Oh, I don't want to take it off. It's so warm and cozy. So you start in the middle of your back panel here. And you knit. You can, I don't know, can you see? Yes, there is a join here. You can see that. Yeah, so you start in the middle here with this join that you can just see there where I'm running my thumb down the inside. And then you knit one saddle outwards and you knit the other saddle outwards, but you pick up from here to start that second saddle. And I don't know if you can see there, we're going to see another saddle shoulder construction in a minute. Normally a saddle on a saddle shoulder would be straight. But the really interesting thing about Maya's pattern is rather than what you would normally do, and this is what I was trying to explain last time but not explaining very well, is normally you would do a very straight saddle, and then once you come to pick up for your front and your back, that's where you do your shaping, because you'd have short rows in here and you'd have short rows in here to bring it down. But with Maya's pattern, it's really clever because you don't have that. All of your shaping is done in your saddle before you even do any of that. So you start off with these two big saddles at the back, and then you do pick up a load of stitches. My sleeve, this sleeve is caught inside itself, so it looks weird. But you pick up a load of stitches along this back, oh my God, here, this back line here. You work your back panel down to a point where you're ready to join in the sleeves. You come back, you work your two fronts, exactly the same. So yeah, whilst working your V-neck shaping, because it's a V-neck cardigan, and then you join in the round. It's not in the round, is it? Because it's not steeked. So you join to work flat back and forth. And then you work your body length. It's got a lovely double knit button band on with some buttonholes. We'll talk about buttons in a minute. And then you pick up and work your sleeves, and it's got really nice folded hem details rather than ribbing. Maya, generally in most of her designs, I don't know if it's all of them, but I think it's certainly most. She's not a big fan of rib herself in her own sort of knitting, so she doesn't tend to put rib in her designs, which means that often her designs have this really very, very neat polished look to them because she chooses other finishings, and she's, yeah, very, very, that's certainly the style that I've come to expect from Maya's designs, having now knit 3 of them. Yeah, 3 of them. Yeah, 3. Road trip jacket, Olympic cami, white day cardigan. 3. Yeah. Such a professional podcaster. Yeah, that's basically what I expect, is very clean, very polished, very finished, very different to what a lot of designers are doing as well. Obviously those first 3 adjectives that I mentioned, clean, polished, professional, could reference petite knit, could reference other loops, could reference Ozetta, could reference Kadri, could reference a lot of the really big designers that are very popular at the moment. The thing I think Maya does differently is that she designs things in a way that nobody else has ever done quite often, or she comes up with different ways of doing things, variations on things, and I just love her designs. This is absolutely fantastic, this cardigan. So I finished this a week ago last Friday, so it's been finished a week and a bit. I'm filming this on Sunday the 2nd of November, and I finished this on Friday not the 31st of October, the Friday before that. I finished it during the day. I washed it and blocked it. The good thing about this as well is I made this in Wendy wool with Aran with wool. That doesn't even make sense. Wendy Aran with wool, which is a 75% acrylic, 25% wool blend. This is the shade Pine. I haven't weighed it. I think it's probably somewhere about 500-600 grams worth of yarn, because I've got quite a bit left of the second ball. It comes in these gigantic 400 gram balls, which are like 800 meters. So it's probably about 1,200 meters worth of yarn for me. I knit the size 6, which actually is a little bit bigger than the pattern recommends on me, so it has more positive ease. You can see it, it is very, very oversized. Like my armpit is here, and this is where it comes to. But I love that. I absolutely love that in this. So what I was saying was I finished this on Friday during the day. I washed it, I blocked it and I washed it, hand washed it, and then I put it in the machine to spin dry because it's acrylic, it can go through, and it was absolutely fine. I then was so desperate to have it dry quickly because we were going out to the pub on Friday evening after work with my in-laws to go and get some food. They wanted to take us out for our wedding anniversary, which was about a year ago. how anniversaries work, isn't it? Oh my days. It was my point there that I was trying to make that I didn't make very well was that our wedding anniversary was in mid-October and we were seeing them in quite late October. So they wanted to take us out for that, but it wasn't on our wedding anniversary, was the point that I was trying to make there. And I was so desperate to wear it that evening that I was like, right, this has to go on my heated area. I have to have this dry. So I got it mostly dry, wove my ends in, and then wore it slightly damp because I was so desperate to wear it. And it's just fabulous. I've had it on pretty much every day since. I love it. I haven't got any buttons on it yet. It should have buttons because I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but there are button holes in it. I have put button holes in it. I was intending to put buttons on. I bought buttons specially, and I'm looking because I thought they were here. Are they in this tub? Yes, they are. Because I did on the Friday when I was intending to wear it, I was like, it's only got 3 buttons. I could whack these out quite quickly. I realised I've got a problem slightly. Many. Can't get words straight, can't be a monogamous knitter, can't stop casting things on, many problems. But I made a mistake slightly with these buttons. So I picked these up from Duttons for Buttons in York. Talked about them on the podcast last time. These lovely big buttons that I was going to put on it that I think would go with it really, really well. The problem I've got is I got my needle threaded. I went to put the needle through, and you can see there I don't know if you call it the bore, the size of the hole basically is quite big. And I thought, fine. The trouble is on the back, I don't know if you can tell, the holes clearly taper as they go through the thickness of the button, and on the back those holes are really small, and I don't have a needle small enough to go through. The eye of the needle is too wide on every single needle that I've tried to get through the back. So I put the needle in and it sticks. So I haven't yet been able to put them on. I do still want to. Has it stopped me wearing it? No. I've worn this pretty much every day since I finished it. It is just cozy, comfy, and relatively lightweight because it's not a super dense fabric or a super dense thick garment. It goes really well with a lot of things. I've had this on with a stripy top. I've worn it most often with this, which is just a plain black t-shirt which has a dog hair right in the middle of it that I've just spotted on camera. Honestly, I wear it. I've noticed I was a bit worried when I finished it because it is so oversized on me. I thought, oh no, this is going to not be very good for work. I'm not going to be able to wear this on Teams at work because this is going to look sloppy. It's going to look unprofessional because on Teams, obviously, really, you only see about this much of me. And actually, it looks great because it looks intentionally oversized. It doesn't look like I've just made it too big, or it doesn't look like I've lost weight and it doesn't fit me anymore, which is what quite a lot of my knitwear looks like now. So I very, very much loved the knitting process of this. It's very well written, as Maya's patterns always are. It's just, yeah, it's become a favourite instantly. This is like Ekin sweater levels of, I've talked about that Ekin sweater all year. I finished it earlier in January or like early February maybe. And I've banged on all year about wanting more things like the Ekin sweater because the moment I finished it, it went straight up to the top of my most worn list. And we have another. So I entirely plan to make more. I've already said I might want for one of my friends, Mona, because she liked one in black, and we're doing a bit of a trade. She's got a Stephen West shawl that she's made, and all the way through her making it, I've been a bit of a pest. I love the colours on that. I love the colours on that. That's gorgeous. The colours on that are gorgeous. And what I wasn't hinting at it, but at the end she was like, they're not really my colours. Do you want it? I was like, yes, but I need to trade you something for that because that's a Stephen West shawl. That is not like, it's not an MCAL. It's the Vertices Unite. But it's a lot of work, and I know she's had that on the needles for a very long time, and I'm pretty certain it's all hand-dyed yarn. So I was like, I've got to give you something in trade for this. So we've agreed I'm going to make her a black one of these. And I was eyeing up some yarn on Vinted, which actually sold before. I sort of said to myself, look, if on payday that yarn's still there, I'm going to get it. It's not expensive. It was this stuff again. It was the Wendy wool with Aran. Oh my days, Aran with wool. Which I'm going to talk about in a bit more in a second because I'm very impressed with it. And that's what I've ordered for Mona's as well. It's the same blend. But it was like a cream with tweed flecks, and I thought, oh, that would look so good. Actually, a darker colour would be more wearable for me in terms of professionalness and how much I'd wear it in my work wardrobe. We're going to talk on that a bit more in coming up to one of my whips, which I'm patting because it's over there, because I've had a lot of thoughts about my knitting this year and why a lot of stuff feels like it hasn't been successful. But we'll talk about that in more detail when I get to that whip, because a lot of decisions that I've made on that have come through my thoughts about that. But yeah, unfortunately, by the time I got to payday, somebody bought that yarn on Vinted, this tweedy, creamy version. But yeah, I'm going to make a black one for Mona. I think a black one would be absolutely gorgeous. I'd love a black one for myself. It's just so wearable. And say there's only a couple of differences I would make if I was to make it again, which I will. I will make a smaller size. So I'll make the size that is intended to fit me, not because there is anything wrong with the size of this, but I only need one massively oversized. I mean, that's me in there. It is huge. I only need one oversized sweater like this or cardigan like this in my wardrobe. I make it in a different colour because again, this green colour is absolutely perfect in my wardrobe. And for me, with the kind of colours that I wear, this almost does function as like a neutral, because I wear a lot of blacks and dark colours and dark coloured jeans and things. So this does fit really well into my wardrobe. But I'd make it in a different colour. And the only other thing I'd do, I'm going to hopefully, I usually forget to do this, but I'm hopefully going to remember to pop some B-roll in there for you. I would make the body a little bit longer. I think it works well on this one because I've made it so oversized and it's almost a bit like a bomber jacket kind of sort of fit. But I would make this a bit longer for myself next time. However, the sleeves are the perfect length. I wouldn't change the sleeves at all. So yeah, this is going to be coming out in a couple of weeks and I so highly recommend this pattern. I also really like the combo of yarn with it. I've said there's a lot of different brands do these gigantic balls of yarn, which are 400 grams, or some of them do 200 grams, and there is somewhere around anywhere between 70 to 80% acrylic, and then 30 to 20% wool with it. And they're not all made equal. So Stylecraft do one, which is actually really quite good. I quite like that one. I've not used it as much as I've used the others. James C. Brett do one, which I haven't really tried. I should probably, do you know what I might actually do? I've just added that to my mental list of videos I want to do. I will do a video trying these and talking about them for you. I tried the Hayfield one recently and I actually ended up destashing that to one of my friends because I really didn't like it. It was squeaky, it was dry, it was horrible. The irony is that she loves those big balls, so it's that sounds really bad. Sorry, Leah. It's Leah of the Ruby and Pearls podcast that bought it off me, that I gifted it to, I think. I can't remember if we did a swap, I think, in the end. And she said the other day that actually she tried it. She loves these, again, the same as me, these big machine washable balls. They're very budget friendly. They are machine washable, which means that the stuff you make is a little bit more, I guess wearable in the context of I don't have to worry about, are the dogs going to make it mucky and then I can't wash it or something like that. But she said the other day that she had tried it, didn't like it, and has also destashed it. So the Hayfield one I wouldn't recommend. It was just not nice to knit with. But the Wendy one, I really would recommend. It is so nice. This doesn't really feel like acrylic. It definitely feels, you can feel the wool content. It's really nice to knit with. It's very budget friendly. It's about £10-11 for a 400 gram ball. So this, I had to buy 2 balls for it. So it would have been about £22-23, something like that. The reality of the amount of yarn that I've used is probably more like £16-17 worth of yarn. But even then, £22 for an entire cardigan is not very expensive at all. And yeah, I've had a fantastic time knitting it. Absolutely going to be making more, which is very rare for me to repeat patterns. But I've ordered the black yarn to make Mona's one. It should be coming hopefully in the next week and I'll be casting that on because I can't wait to be knitting on this again because I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So 15 minutes of waffle about one pattern, but it's my only finished object this time and it will be coming out in a couple of weeks. I will be mentioning it again on here because I very definitely recommend that you go and check this one out. So that's that for finished objects. Let me have a drink. What shall I show you? There's quite a lot of new to show you. We're going to have a talk about how I've been feeling about my knitting, I think maybe is the best way to do it. Let me show you the one project that you've seen. No, there's 2 you've seen before, but I'm going to show you one of them first. And then we're going to talk about the other ones and other stuff that I haven't mentioned. So let me get this one first. So in my big beast, oh, that's the wrong way around. In the big Beast of a Yarndale bag, this is full of wool, is my husband's pheasant hunt cardigan, which is a vintage pattern by Mary Maxim. One of them is a bag full of wool. That's the bag full of wool. This has the bits in it. Vintage pattern by Mary Maxim. I think Mary Maxim might have reproduced a vintage pattern. I don't know. It's a vintage pattern. I'm sure it says in this somewhere. My very scruffy pieces of paper. Yeah, so one of the images that's been included in it was digitised from a 1969 catalogue. So we're talking a late 60s pattern. And this is a all over, it's an intarsia cardigan that I'm making for my husband out of multiple shades of Drops Alaska, all of which I've put on my Ravelry project, which is linked down below because there are so many of them that it was quite hard to, I don't remember the names basically. So all of I think it's got 7 different colours in it. They're all linked in my project page, which I've linked down below. And we've had quite a bit of progress since I showed you last time. So I think if you've been here for a while, you will know this is all done flattening pieces. So I'd done both sleeves. I'd done the left front, which had a dog intarsia on the bottom of it. And I think when I showed you last time, I'd got to here on the right front. I was just about ready to start the pockets because it's got pockets in it as well. I've had quite a bit of progress since then. So I have finished the right front. Yeah, right front. Could you see the cogs whirring while I tried to work out my left and right? I have made a slight error on the intarsia here. He shouldn't have quite such square hips. This here, that stitch shouldn't be there, but I think I'm just going to duplicate stitch that over the end. So he looks a little bit odd. My husband is quite happy with him. And he's got a big gun. No, I'm wrong. It is the left front because this is where your button band is. So yeah, he sits on here with his rifle and he's in the long grass. So that's done. And then I cast on the bit that I've been worrying about, which is the back panel, which I think I've shown you repeatedly, but where's that picture? Are you going to be able to see? Maybe. So I don't know if you can see on this, that back panel, that's the pheasant on the back panel. Everything else is just solid colours, but the pheasant has all 7 colours in it. Oh boy. I've got into that now and it is just starting to show. And that's my right front with the dog on. I was quite pleased with my dog. I think the dog looks really good. Yeah, I'm just starting to get to the bit where I'm starting to do the intense intarsia for the pheasant and it's already challenging and I'm only on the tail. So this is where we're at on the back panel. We have another dog who, again, I've messed up slightly on the intarsia. This bit here, the dog looks really hench. The dog looks really hench because I've basically made this shoulder a little bit wider than it should be. But again, A, I think with blocking, this one will even out a little bit and it won't look so obvious. B, if needed, I'll do some duplicate stitch to sort it out. But actually, I'm quite pleased with how that looks. And then over this side, I have just started working the tail of the pheasant, which looks like such a mess at the moment because there are single stitches. Lots of single stitches of one colour, so I'm doing lots of little bits of tiny little tails. The ends on this thing are going to be ridiculous. Even on the dog, which was just one solid colour, there are loads of ends to weave in. And then I was working stranded colour work over the long grass bit because that's what the pattern actually tells you to do. So yeah, we are progressing on this. I need to just sit and put some more time in on it, but I have to be able to focus on this because especially now with that chart, I have to be able to pay attention. Thankfully, for now at least, I'm not doing any shaping on the back. It is just knitting flat, but it does get to a point, I'm pretty certain. Yeah, I can show you a bit of that there without showing you the chart, where I'm still working the pheasant and I'm starting working decreases. So I'm going to have to really, really pay attention. But it does look great. It does look absolutely fab. And I'm very, very pleased with myself that I've been able to achieve this. I have actually genuinely really enjoyed the intarsia aspect of it. Yes, am I dreading this really intense bit with all the 7 colours in? Yeah, I really am. But particularly the more simple intarsia, I have actually really enjoyed it. So there may well be more intarsia projects on my needles in the future. And this is another yarn that I really rate. You've heard me talk about Drops Alaska quite a lot this year. This is a proper 100% wool Aran weight yarn from Drops. It is very budget friendly. I think it's something like a few pounds for a 50-gram skein. I don't know how much. Okay, so I was completely wrong. It's even cheaper than that, and it actually is currently on sale on Wool Warehouse for £1.35 per 50-gram ball. It is a 50-gram ball, so you only get like 70 meters or something like that in it, but £1.35. £2.70, yeah, for 100 grams of Aran weight yarn is extremely cheap. It is 100% wool, so it is rustic, and I have knit it at a tighter gauge before, and I still really like it. It's just a little bit harder on your hands, but this is a bit of a looser gauge, so I'm knitting this on 4mm needles for the ribbon and 6mm needles for the main body, which is what the pattern recommends. And I love this. It's so soft and drapey, despite the fact that it's very warm. I don't know if you can see, it's almost a little bit of an open fabric in many ways, but when it's blocked, that this front has been blocked, and you can see the difference in the drape, and you can't feel it because it's obviously you're not feeling through the telly, but it has felt, it's bloomed, not felted, it feels different, the feel of it has changed is what I was trying to say there. It's evened out, it's a lot of that gappiness has gone because it's bloomed and it's filled up the space. It feels thicker and softer, and it is a real workhorse. I've got a couple of things in this that just don't show any pilling at all because they're so rustic and robust. So yeah, another one that I very highly recommend. Still progressing on this. I have to focus on it. It is not an easy TV knitting project. I have to pay attention. I absolutely have to. So, but it's lovely, and I am very definitely enjoying it actually. Okay, so that's the main thing that I've been working on here that you've seen. I've still got bits of it everywhere, and I've had a bit of a weird couple of weeks with my knitting. A few things have gone on. I'm making it sound really deep, and it isn't. One thing is, and I don't know if you've been able to tell in the way you've seen me move, I'm really struggling with pain at the moment. I've had some fantastic suggestions from you guys, but the reality of it is, unfortunately, this is a problem that I've had for years with my shoulder that I've had limited success with medical help with. I've been given painkillers and stuff in the past, and I've been given physio, but the physio doesn't seem to do much with it. And haven't had great success. And unfortunately, I have flare-ups from time to time. And at the moment, I can't honestly remember a time when I've had a patch as bad as this with it. I'm sat here talking to you guys, and it feels like somebody's got a red hot poker and is jabbing it into my shoulder. So I'm going to be going back to the doctors about it. I've had to go to the doctors already a couple of times for things this week, last couple of weeks. So I'm going to be back there again. Probably going to have to go to the hospital for some extra tests and things, which again, I've spent a lot of time at that hospital over the last year. I'm just getting to that point in my life where that happens and it's annoying, and I'm grumping about it when I don't need to. But the upshot of that has been that my knitting time, this started, if you watched my video last week, I did a little weekend daily vlog, which, thank you so much for your warm reception for that. I was a bit nervous about it actually, because when you put a vlog up, it's a bit more personal than this. This is me. This is what you see is what you get, but I'm not taking you on along in my day-to-day life. But yeah, I was starting to get a little bit of pain during filming that, but I usually have some level of pain. So it was not unusual and I wasn't worried about it. The next day and then into the Monday, so I filmed that mostly on the Saturday, but the Sunday and into the Monday, it started to really get quite bad. And throughout the week since then, my knitting time has just got less and less, unfortunately, because I can't really knit for very long. Today I've had to resign myself to the fact that, unfortunately, I think knitting is one of the things that's exacerbating it at the moment whilst I'm in this particular sort of flare up of it. I think it's one of the things that's exacerbating it because of the posture that I put myself in and the way that I hold my needles and things. So today I've had to resign myself to the fact that realistically I need to be doing, if I'm doing any knitting at all, I need to be doing very short stints of no more than 10 minutes, and then I need to be taking some quite considerable breaks. So my progress that you're going to see from me in the next few weeks is going to be quite a lot less. I also got to a point where, and I think I mentioned this in the vlog last week, we came back from the dog walk and I was just grumpy. I was just in a bad mood, which we all get. It's absolutely fine to be like that. But I was also in a mood where I was like, I hate all of my whips. I don't want to work on any of these. What is wrong with it? I don't want any of these. And I just wanted something fresh. And I was chatting to my friend Leah of the Ruby and Pearls podcast. And I know she's done an episode about this recently. She's done a knitting chat talking about, we've both had, through different mechanisms, I think, we've both had not very successful years of knitting. And I don't like using that term successful because I don't think it's been a bad year of knitting, but in terms of the garments that I've made that I wear that I like, and actually for me this year, the garments that I've finished, I've got a lot of stuff that I've started, but I've not got massive amounts of things for me that I've finished. And then the ones that I have finished, the ones that I've made for me for the most part, feel like they haven't been hugely successful. Again, I don't like that term, but in terms of a garment, they haven't, because I don't wear them. Either I don't like the fit when I finish them, or they don't like the colour, or I don't like the yarn choice. But there's been a variety of reasons this year why I just don't wear the things that I've made. And I'm a bit fed up of that at the end of the year, I'll be honest, because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of knitting, and I'm really frustrated with the fact that I don't have these things there to wear. I also have done quite a bit this year of, we've talked before on the channel about my shape's changed. I've lost quite a lot of weight since I started doing the podcast. I'm not, again, never going to go into details on that. And I'm never going to address it more than that because I know it's triggering for a lot of people. But it is the elephant in the room that means that a lot of the things that I've made for myself previously in knitting also don't fit. And alongside that, this year, in the last few months, my husband and I have been trying quite a lot to really sort of, I guess, not become a bit more minimalistic. That sounds really up my own arse, doesn't it? I don't mean that. But to just sort of declutter a bit. We've got a lot of stuff. I think everybody has a lot of stuff. You acquire stuff, don't you? And we've just decluttered a little bit. And as part of that, we've done a lot with clothes because both of our sizes and shapes have changed. There's a lot of clothes we've got that don't fit. And we've donated them all. They've all gone to charities and things like that. We haven't just binned anything. But I've done the same with my knitwear. And realistically, if I'm honest now, I have a wardrobe of maybe 6 knitted things that I wear. Not including tops. I've got a couple more tops, but there are some tops that I've made that I also don't wear. I've got a couple more knitted tops. But a lot of things that I've made this year aren't in actually that. A lot of the things that I have left that have survived the declutter aren't things that I've made this year, because the things that I've made this year haven't hit the mark for me in terms of wearability, how they look on me when they're finished, what I like in my wardrobe. And yeah, then a couple of the things that I've got, particularly in terms of knitted jumpers, weren't even made for me. So I've got a lento that one of my friends made for herself. She then realised, not super long after that, I don't think, that actually she's allergic to mohair. She'd had some problems whilst knitting it, but was trying to work out what it was, and then had realised that it was mohair, and she got rid of all of her mohair stash and then said, did I want this lento, because she couldn't wear it. So not even made for me, but that's stayed in my wardrobe. Yeah, and the majority of the sweaters that I've got certainly aren't things that I've made this year. The only things that have survived, I think, that I've made this year are the White Day, because I've just finished. I mean, not because I've just finished it. This is not going anywhere because I adore this thing. But also the Ekin sweater, which again I mention all the time. Everything else really that I've made this year, I don't have anymore, or I don't wear. T-shirts are apart from that, but one that springs to mind under that is the Minerva tee that I made earlier in the year that I think is absolutely beautiful and I had the best time making. And I got rid of because I don't wear. Didn't wear it. I wore it once. I was annoyed with the neckline. I gave it to my mum to try on. She also didn't like the neckline, unfortunately, so that got donated. Yeah, so the other things that I've got left are things like my Gofret raglan that I made before this channel was even a thing. Same with my Dartmoor sweater by Kadri, made before I even had this channel. So we're talking at least 2 years ago, if not longer than that. What else? There is another one in there, which is my Lapidarian by Marina Skewer, which actually I think unfortunately needs to go, but I haven't quite come around to that one yet, because that is the most expensive thing I've made other than my wedding dress. I bought entirely Marina Skewer's Mended DK for that, which is beautiful yarn, and now it's too big on me. That might be one that my dad might like, or my husband. It's too big on my husband now. Yeah, so I haven't felt like I've had success with my knitting, because the things that I've made aren't things that I've wanted when I finished them. And I'm fed up of that. I'm really fed up of that. So I've been trying to do a bit of learning what I like on my body a bit more, because what I like on my body now is not what I would have liked on my body 2 years ago. And that part of that is not to do with weight, part of that is to do with aging. I am now 37. I'm not far off 38. I was 30. God, what would I have been? 33 when I started knitting, 32, 33. So my job has changed multiple times since then. My level of career has changed. My circumstances have changed. I have changed as a person. The things that I now wear and the way that I like to dress are very different than they were then. I also think I've fallen into the trap that a lot of us fall into as knitters, that the colours that I like are not necessarily the colours that I'll wear. I need to be sensible about that. And the same again with the garments. The garments that I like are not necessarily the garments that I'll wear. So that's a lot of this is kind of prefacing what I'm going to say in I'm going to do like a 2025 wrap up and a look into 2026, knitting plans for 2026. And a lot of that's going to come into that, is that I want to be a lot more mindful about what I will actually wear and make things that are a bit more wardrobe appropriate for me. And from that, basically, from all this pondering, all this talking to Leah about it, and all of this frustration as well about not feeling like I'm having successes in my knitting, led to I didn't want to work on any of my whips. and I've cast a few new things on, and I'm letting myself feel okay with that, because as well, if I've got very limited knitting time, I don't want to spend it on something that I'm not happy with. So one of the things that I was talking about last week is a test knit for Lily Kate France, which I have cast on actually. I've not done much, I've only done about an inch, and I am undecided whether I'm going to be able to commit to that or not. I've said to her that I will. If I'm not going to, I'm going to very quickly tell her, because my main concern now is it is an all over cabled, quite intensive garment, and I don't know if with this shoulder I'm going to be able to do that. If I can't, I'm going to try and make the decision today, in the next couple of days really. If I can't, I'd rather tell her sooner so that she can find somebody else for my space if need be, which is a shame because it's beautiful. But other than that, I've not worked on a lot of things that I've shown you in the previous podcasts because I just wasn't in the mood for them, and I kind of just wanted to allow myself to do what I wanted to do. One thing that I have shown you before that I've done a bit more work on, I'm not going to talk about much, but I'm going to put some more time into this, because the things that I found when I've not been successful, when I've not been happy with the knits that I've been making for myself, the things that I've been gravitating towards more are things for my husband, things for gifts, things for my dad, things for sample knits as well. And that's what this is. So this is the rainbow sweater sample knit for Creative Anarchy Yarns, Hannah, that I mentioned before. This is in her own blown alpaca air, is that what it's called? I'll put the yarn details on screen. But I've got a bit further on the folded collar. This is actually quite nice to work on, because I'm going to talk about a collar, folded collar in a bit, that hasn't been so nice to work on. It's really hurt actually. But because this is blown yarn, it's very light and airy. Let me show you the ball. You should be able to see it a bit better there. It's very light and airy, knit at a big gauge. So this has been quite a nice, gentle thing to work on. Again, 10-minute stints. But I've not got long to do before. I think I've got about another inch to do on the collar before I'm ready to fold it down. That is going to be a bit of that's going to have to be a wait until I've got capacity to do that, because I've discovered I've got 2 folded collar projects here. They both hurt. So I need to just be steady with that. Once I've done that, I'll be flying. It's colour work and it's short rows and it's stuff that I love. And this is going to be my contrast colour. So these are going to get some more dedicated time over the next couple of weeks. And I was going to say as well, I am still absolutely loving sample knitting. I'm very, very much still wanting to keep going with it. I've been talking with Lauren of Wild Pearl about doing some more samples for her. I love sample knitting. I really enjoy it. I think I'm verging towards that a bit more than test knitting moving forwards. I've got a test knit to show you, but we'll talk about that in a minute. In fact, no, we'll talk about that now. So this is the other thing that I've cast on. No, one of the other things. The other 3 things are all new cast-ons. This is a test knit that I've signed up to do for Flaminia of the Knitting Phlegm, or Knitting Phlegm. It might just be Knitting Phlegm on Instagram. She has, I think she's a relatively new designer, but she's got a range of patterns called the Sandro range. And I saw her Sandro crew neck sweater last year and I was obsessed with it. I really still want to make it, and I think I'm going to after this. But this is the Sandro V-neck that she put a test call out for a couple of weeks ago, and I applied for it, and then I'll be honest, completely forgot that I'd applied for it, and I got it, and I thought, yeah, actually I really love that, so I want to go with it. So I have swatched and cast on and started working. So I know I said about colours and I know I said about colours that maybe don't work so well for me. I think this is, I'm going to be really careful of that mic. This colour I think does really work for me, and because it's a V-neck, I think is actually going to be quite nice and fitting in my wardrobe. Something like this that's a bit more of a statement piece, because it's got these cables all over it, is not something so much that I'm as bothered about the colours with, because it doesn't need to go over the top of something else. I don't know if that makes any sense, but this is some Botanical Yarns DK weight Marie. I think it's just a DK weight sock yarn that they do, that I got in sample credit for a sample last year. I think the colourway was called Crocus, something like that. So this is a drop shoulder construction. So this is the back trapezoid that I've been working on. You cast on at the top, you work some short rows, you start your cabling, and then I'm working the back trapezoid flat. It's very hard to show you. You work your back trapezoid flat. What I love about this is that it's cables, but it's gentle cables, and very modern looking cables. So you can see it's cables one way. They're quite widely spread out, both widthwise, as in like they're not right next to each other, and they're also quite widely spread out this way, and then you've got these big solid ribs in the middle. And I just think this looks so modern and clean and crisp, and the crew neck version is absolutely beautiful. So I think this is very reminiscent of one of my favourite things, knitwear patterns. But it's all over cable. They're obviously a bit closer together, but I prefer this more spaced out look because I think it looks absolutely fab. The thing I found with this is quite a lot of work, and I hadn't cast this on when I did my blog last week, and I think I did this on like maybe Wednesday. Yeah, I did, I cast on Wednesday, so this is only since, this is Wednesday, Thursday and Friday's worth of knitting because I didn't knit on this yesterday. The thing I found with this is it's quite a loose gauge, and it's a very smooth yarn because it's a hand-dyed sock yarn, so it glides. There is no tension on this really at all. There is, of course there's tension, but it's not putting tension here when I'm knitting it. So this has been nice, and I can actually put a bit more time in on this. So, which is difficult for me, being somebody who really loves woolly wools and rustic wools and things like that. I was like, well, maybe I should just lean towards this kind of stuff. But this kind of stuff, hand-dyed sock yarn, is A, expensive, and B, not rustic. So it's not generally the sort of things that I lean towards. But just look at those cables. They're so good. I love how modern and clean it looks. So yeah, I definitely see more Sandro things in my future, but I'm very excited to continue going on this. This I think isn't due until like January, so I'm going to be able to take this very, very steadily. And in comparison to the Lily Cape pattern, because that is so intensive, every single row is something different. I'm increasing, I'm doing different cables, I'm doing different textures, so I need to keep an eye on it. And because I'm constantly moving the yarn about, it hurts my shoulder. Whereas this is, I do like, I can't remember how many rows it is, but it's maybe like 14 rows between the cables, something like that. And then I do a single cable row with them all going the same way. I don't have to think about it. And yeah, this is absolutely gorgeous. So that's sort of what it's going to be like. That's the width of it. It's quite a big drop, and I'm fine with that. I can't remember what size I'm knitting. I think I'm knitting size 5. Which is sort of like I'm finding most patterns now I'm somewhere between a large and an extra large, depending on the amount of ease that I want. Somewhere between a size 4 and size 5. And yeah, very, very pleased with this. Love how this is turning out. And I'm also very glad to be using some yarn that I've had in the stash for a bit that I didn't really know what else to do with. So that's that one. I then cast something on that you will have seen a brief shot of on the vlog last week. I didn't talk about it much. I'm going to do a project vlog on this. I'm filming this. But last year when we got married, we went on a short mini moon to Lisbon for our honeymoon. And we went, while we were there, to the Ravelry Rosa Pomar store. And I picked up some yarn. I picked up the most expensive single skein of sock yarn I've ever had in my life that I still haven't used and that I want to actually. I'm still angry when I think about that. I'm angry with myself for not saying I don't want that. But I also picked up these 4 colours of Joao by Ravelry. That's not going to, there we go. Which is upside down. So I'm going to have to read it in a minute. It's their own, Ravelry Rosa Pomar are a yarn producer. That word. This is 100% wool. 50 grams is 149 yards, or 136 meters. It's sport weight. And it says Joao yarn is made from the wool of the Portuguese merino sheep, a native breed found in the south of Portugal, mainly in the Alentejo. The Portuguese Merino Breeders Association verifies the origin and quality of the fleece used to produce this yarn, sourced and manufactured in Portugal. And you can see if I hold one of these up, it's almost it's singles. It's basically singles. It's not plied, is it? Because it's a single. And there are bits where I'm not going to be able to find anything for you. It's got a lot of elasticity to it. And there are almost thick and thin bits of it. I don't know if you can see that there. So this is the green strand. That's very thin here, and then all of a sudden you get a big. You can't see it at all. You get a big thick chunk. But the reason I picked this up was there was a sample in there that my husband saw that he really loved. It was just very plain stockinette sweater, but it was held these colours, and I think we decided these were the same colours. I think the orange was slightly different, but we liked this better than the other colour that they'd used. It was held with a cream and it was mild all the way through, and it was done in different stripes. So I came back and I picked up a load of this Drops Lima in the shade Off White. Lima is Drops' DK weight alpaca wool blend, which I'm pretty certain is 65% alpaca, 30%, no, all the way around, 65% wool, 35% alpaca, I'm pretty certain. And for a while, I think I forgot about it. I'll be honest, I didn't do it there and then, and I think I forgot about it. And then the other week I thought, do you know what, I've got that, I could work on that. And again, a lot of yarn out of stash. Also, nice to make a gift for him. He's very definitely, we're both feeling the cold this year. Having lost weight, we're feeling the cold a lot differently. And I really wanted to make him something nice and warm. So that's where this came in. So this is on a very short cable, so it's quite hard to show you. But this is the pattern that I'm using is the Step by Step sweater by Florence Miller, which is a free pattern on Ravelry, intended for beginners to teach you how to do a raglan sweater. It's got video tutorials for all of them. I can't speak for the video tutorials because I haven't used them. The pattern itself is fairly good. There's a couple of bits where I sort of think, well, I know what to do, but would a beginner know what to do? I guess that's where you'd go and look at the video tutorial. But essentially, it's a top-down raglan sweater with this big, chunky, folded rib. In fact, it gives two options. I decided to go with the folded rib. Then it's got an option for short rows, which I also did. It's done at quite a big gauge. I think it's like a 16 stitch gauge. So with these two held together with a DK weight, fairly plump DK weight held with a sport weight, I am getting a little bit over the gauge. So I'm getting something like, I think it's like I'm getting 15 stitches and I'm supposed to be getting 16 or something like that. Or I was getting 14 and I was supposed to be getting 16 on 5.5mm needles, which is what it recommends. To account for that, because this is already quite a dense fabric, I didn't want to go down any further. So to account for that, what I've done is I've gone down a size in the pattern. So I'm making the second size. He was already a bit, the size of chest that he is, I was already a bit back and forth, because technically he would have fallen into the second size, but because it gives a range for if you are between these kind of bust measurements, you should do this one. He was going to have he was at the end of that range, at the bottom end of that range, so he was going to have a lot of positive ease in it. And I was already a little bit worried that might be a bit much positive ease for him. So going down a size, I should get about what I want, I think, with the bigger gauge. And then what I'm doing for this basically is doing it completely randomly. So I've assigned a number to each of the colours. So we've got 1, 2, 3, which is that green at the bottom, which you can't see very well because it's so well rocked up on the needles. And then 4 is the navy. And I am just rolling a dice, or rolling a virtual dice on my phone, rolling a virtual 4-sided dice for the colour, and also rolling a virtual 10-sided dice at the same time to determine how many rows of that I do. The only exception I made to that was the collar. I wanted to do the collar in one single colour. And the short rows as well, you might be able to see. So this is the back, which is where I work the short rows. So there's a much bigger chunk of it there than at the front. So what I basically did was worked all the short rows in one colour, and then once I'd finished the short rows, and if you've done short rows before, you'll know what I'm talking about, but you finish your short rows and then you usually do one row to close everything off, don't you, to resolve all your remaining double stitches. So I did that, and then I knit the amount of rows from there that my dice had said that I should do, which I think was 4. So at the front, I've only got 4 rows of that colour, whereas at the back I've got a lot more rows of that colour because that's where the short rows were, but that's fine. And I'm just going to continue through doing that. So I'm actually probably about halfway through the raglan. You can't really tell because it's so bunched up. It's on such small cables, and that's partly, this is one of the ones that's hurting my shoulder a bit, and it's partly because it's such a dense fabric, but I think it's mainly because it's so bunched up on the needles. I mean, look at that. So I really need to get this on a longer cable, I think. And I think what I was thinking the other day was I'm going to just try and get a few additional cables, because I've broken a few and I don't think I've ever really replaced them, and particularly that mid-length, like this is all right, but I need the next one round for this. And I think I begrudge spending money on stuff like that, because I'm like, well, I can make it work, and we're trying to save as much money as we can at the moment. But realistically, when it comes down to something that will help with pain, I should just get it, shouldn't I? So I'm going to do that. But I am very much enjoying this. I think he's going to love it. And I want to get it done fairly quickly for him, because it is so nice and dense and thick that it will keep him warm. And that was the main thing that made me want to cast this on when I did, was that I could make him a really nice warm sweater quite quickly. So this is quite a high priority. And then we're coming back to Leah again. Sorry, this is the episode of talking about Leah. When we were chatting about our frustrations and our lack of success, she's had a similar kind of year, that a lot of the garments that she's made she no longer has this year because she's just not been happy with them. And we were talking about the fact that a lot of the garments that I've made this year I haven't finished. I've started, but I haven't finished. And we decided that to give us both some motivation and also to give us both a bit of a win, hopefully, and I think it's going to be, we decided we were going to do a buddy knit. Sorry about that. I just had to adjust and put a pillow behind me to hopefully try and help a bit. Anyway, we decided we were going to do a buddy knit together, partly to do it as a buddy knit to A, make it fun, B, give us both a deadline because we're both people who like sample knitting, test knitting. We do best with a deadline. And C, hopefully make it something that I finish. And we decided we would pick a pattern. Leah's suggestion, and it was a completely great suggestion, was to pick something from the likes of a petite knit or a Kadri or a Moroccan knit or a Zeta or a knit pearl girl that we know is clean, classic, simple, elevated basics that will work in both of our wardrobes, that ticks the boxes that we're looking for, and that will hit, basically, that we can trust will hit. And we were going back and forth for a while trying to pick a pattern. She'd suggested the Eva cardigan, but I wasn't in the mood for a cardigan. I'd suggested, I can't remember what I'd suggested, but we just weren't finding things that we both liked until I went and looked at Ozetta. And I said, have you looked at the Lakes pullover? Everybody knows the Lakes pullover. I was like, the Lakes is gorgeous, isn't it? And we agreed that actually the Lakes was going to be the one that we were going to go for. So the best bit about the Lakes was that I could go for the crew neck version, which is more what suits me, and she prefers to knit a V-neck. She prefers to knit a V-neck, so she could go for the V-neck version. So that's what we've done, and we're putting it together. Poor Leah has had to be kind of slowed down by me a little bit because we'd agreed. This was Leah's suggestion. Leah is a very fast knitter and is much better at being more monogamous than me, just sitting and focusing on one thing. She can crack out a jumper in a couple of days because she's very fast and she'll just sit and work on it when she has the time. She won't flip between lots of different projects like me. And initially I'd said, look, I don't want to hold you up. You just go ahead. You just knit, knit when you want to knit. And she'd said actually in the end that what we decided was to put in some checkpoints, basically, so that she doesn't storm ahead and finish it and then I lose steam on it. Trouble is, we did that. We started this last weekend and then I've got slower and slower. So poor Leah has had to really wait for me. But I do like actually having the checkpoints. So they're saying that I have said to her now, please just go ahead and do your next sleeve because it's taking me so long to get any further on this that, yeah, I really don't want her to lose steam on it either. But anyway, we went with the Lakes. I purchased the pattern on Saturday. I cast on instantly and I loved it. I've done quite a lot on this. So this is something that you haven't seen before because I hadn't even thought I was going to do it. But out of nowhere, we've got loads. We've got absolutely loads. So this is a saddle shoulder. I said we were going to talk about another saddle shoulder. So to give you the comparison, this is a very traditional saddle shoulder construction where you've got this big, oh my God, big flat saddle and you can see it's straight. This is just a flat portion of knitting. And then when you're doing your shaping, you're doing short rows in the back and you're doing short rows in your fronts to shape it. The difference with the white day, that was the mic I grabbed, wasn't it? The difference with the white day is that you're doing the shaping in the shoulder saddle before you do that. So I really like how that's done, how it looks. Anyway, this has been really nice. This has been really, really nice. I am at a point where I can try it on. I'm going to have to think about the mic. But I think I might try this on and show you, and I can show you a bit more where we're at and what I've done. So, okay, so we're going to be proper roving reporter style now, and I'm going to hold the mic, and hopefully this is okay, but we can see where we're at. So this isn't showing up very well on camera, actually. It looks way better in person, but I've done quite a bit. I told you, didn't I? I've done quite a bit. So you do the saddles, started with the saddles, you then do your back, pretty certain. You pick up and you work your back. You then come and do your fronts, and then you join for the crew neck, and you knit flat until you do some underarm shaping, and then you join them around. And I've actually got a couple of inches. Let me see that. Yeah, I've got a couple of inches under the arms. I've also picked up and done the part of the first sleeve. I'm hoping to get some more progress. I'm about halfway through the decreases on my first sleeve. It does come down a little bit lower than it is there. Hang on, let me see if I can. Does that work? That might work. I've just slipped stitches off the needles. So it currently, especially when it's blocked, it's going to be sitting about there, I think, something like that. And I think this is going to look lovely. This is going to look really lovely. It looks weird because I'm pulling my hair back out the way so you can see those saddles. It does look weird at the moment, and I also think it's going to block really, really nicely because of the yarns that I'm using, which again we'll talk about in a minute. The thing that's taken me a lot of time is this neckline. I've come back, and so you come back and pick up, and I was quite keen to do this because it is a very intense neckline. So you can see it's deep anyway, but it's also folded. So it's a very deep neckline, and it really cinches everything in. This was very wide before I put the neckline in. I feel like it was coming out here somewhere, and it was very low down the front. And I was trying it. I'm knitting my sleeve. I'm trying this on. I'm conscious that when I get to the length of the body, I'm going to be trying it on to see when I've got to the length I want and everything. The thing is, without this neckline on, when the neckline makes such a difference to the final fit of the garment, you need the neckline on to be able to see how it's going to fit, and it really has. It's really, really altered the fit of the garment. I love this. I think this is absolutely gorgeous. I had, you may have seen on Instagram, I'd asked about stripes. I was going to put some stripes in it. Let me take this off and I can talk to you a bit easier about it. Okay, I've got it off the needles. Sorry, no, I haven't. No, I've got it off me and I've got it back on the needles because I pulled some stitches off on the sleeve. Yeah, when I was trying it on before without the neckline in, it was coming like a good couple of inches further down my arm. So that's the difference that this has made, this neckline. And it is an intense neckline. It is a double folded collar that you sew down, or you knit. I've knit mine together with the cast on edge basically. This is knit on 5mm needles. The collar is knit on 3.75mm needles. This is already quite dense for me to knit on, so this is something that I really am having to be gentle with my sleeve. Sorry, I'm paying attention to the dog because he's looking at me like he might be going to be sick. Yeah, this is already quite a dense fabric to work together. I'm getting gauge. It is rustic, it is quite heavy, and it is quite dense, and that's because of the yarn choice that I've made. I am quite happy with that because I think this is going to be a really wearable piece, both in wearing it in the house and stuff and wearing it for work, but also wearing it for dog walks and things, because I think it's going to be quite the windbreak. But it means that if it's dense and quite stiff on 5mm needles, it's going to be really dense and stiff on 3.75. And oh my, it was. So you might not be able to see unless I show it to you. You actually can't see very well. So I'm using two yarns held together to get gauge on this. I'm using Warth Mill DK from Woolly Knit in the shade Light Natural Grey. That is coming up way more yellowy tone than it actually is in real life. It's a very cool natural grey. This is 100% British wool DK weight. With almost a bit of sort of heather and marl to it. It's really lovely. I really like Warth Mill DK. But because it's a DK and this is a worsted to Aran weight pattern, I just wasn't quite getting gauge with that. So I decided to hold with it a strand of this, which has made an appearance on the podcast before, but not for a while. This is Uppingham Yarns 100% 4-ply Shetland type wool in the shade Pebble. This is a very light fingering weight. I think it's something like 637 meters per 100 grams. Doesn't say on here, but I've definitely seen that on Ravelry. And this was a 500 gram comb that cost me about £18. Really not very expensive. This is another woolly knit type. If you like that type of yarn, Uppingham Yarns, I think it actually is just wool.co.uk is the website. Does it say it on here? www.wools.co.uk. And I am right. I paid £17.57 for this. It's got a price on the inside of it. And it's a massive cone. It was a massive cone. There's still loads left of it. This is a very, very fine, very light fingering yarn. But because I've got rustic wool with rustic wool, it's quite dense, it's quite heavy, and it's quite hard to knit with. And I was finding on the collar that I was struggling. It was really hurting. I think particularly the back and forth of, yarn round, yarn back kind of thing. So what I did was I've done the majority of it in the two strands held together. And then when I've got to a point where I'm certain that I'm past the fold, I've dropped the Uppingham yarns and the inside is just worked with the Warth Mill DK. So I think it'll even out a bit better with blocking. There is a definite difference in gauge. You can see the contrast better there. There is a definite difference in gauge where I've stopped. But the thing is, I think I did, for most of the day yesterday, picking this up and working on it when I could, I managed to do about 2 or 3 rounds of the rib with both attached. Once I decided to do that and I dropped the Uppingham yarns, I got the rest of it done in about 20 minutes. So the speed difference and the comfort difference for me was mad. So I was able to yesterday finish off the collar. Yeah, that is the back. I was right, that is the back. I was able to finish off the collar, sew it down, and then come back and work on the sleeve. So I've done a little bit more on the sleeve last night. I'm going to continue working on the sleeve today. The sleeve isn't bad. I've got it on small circumference 5mm needles, so I'm not having to constantly fight with the cable. I can just knit round and round and round. I've got a bit of a wool fibre in my eye. But yeah, I think, you know, this is a lot of, I've got a long way in it in a short period of time, and I'm enjoying it very much. Yeah, I was saying, wasn't I, about stripes? I had initially, I don't know why I'd got it in my head, but I got in my head that I wanted to do stripes on the body. I've got some other Wharf Mill balls in the shade, I think it's just Harvest, which is a very warm toned cinnamony brown colour. I've got a cardigan out of it and I thought it was here, but it's not, so I can't show you it. It's a really lovely colour. It's one of my favourite colours that Woolly Knit do. The colour in the 4-ply British wool is called Harvest Gold. And I think in the Wharf Mill it's just called Harvest, but it's one of my favourite colours that Woolly Knit do. It's almost like a baby puke, baby poo kind of colour, which sounds really weird, but it works really well on me. It's like a warm toned, cinnamony, rusty brown colour. It's lovely. And I got that in my head, and I had put on my Instagram asking for opinions, because I then decided to do some stripes on the sleeve as well and line them up. And I'd started doing my first stripe and I just wasn't sure on it. And I think if it wasn't for this Uppingham yarns that's with it, it would probably go, because to make sure the gauge was the same, I'd kept the Uppingham yarns held with it. And the Uppingham yarns is more of a, it's almost more cool toned. It's not really a cool toned colour, but next to that sort of brassy gold, it really stood out, and I didn't think it would. And I ended up, I think the consensus was you all really liked the stripes. But I sort of came to the realisation that the more I looked at it, the more I wasn't sure about it. And the fact that I felt like I needed to ask the question in the first place suggested that I knew what I needed to do, because I wasn't happy with it. So I went back and I ripped the stripe out, and I'm just going to do it in this colour. I've got plenty of it. It was just a choice that I thought would look good. But yeah, I think actually on reflection, I think it's going to look better without it. The thing that was the reason that we chose the lakes was we were looking at a lot of different designs. And with all of them, when you're looking through the Ravelry project pages, there would be something we didn't like. There was a cable pattern that Leah suggested that looked really nice, but when I looked through the pattern pages, I was like, I don't like the neckline looks really saggy on a lot of people. I don't like it. There was another one that I think I had suggested, and she said, actually, I don't like the projects. When you look through them, there's these problems with it. There was a lot that were like that. And then we've basically found with the lakes, neither of us could find any issues with the projects that we saw. And obviously the lakes is an incredibly popular pattern. So, you know, there are a lot of projects to go through. It just looks gorgeous. I just think it's a really lovely pattern. And actually, I have been very, very much enjoying Ozetta's writing style. It's the first time I've ever knit an Ozetta. The first time I've ever knit an Ozetta pattern. So Ozetta's, I think, real name, her actual name is Hayley Smedley. I've never knit a pattern from her before. Unlike Petite Knit, when I've knit a couple of patterns from her, or when I've been knitting, I've knit the Oslo hat and then I'm knitting the Key sweater as well, I have found her writing style a bit difficult. I can see what people say. It's very simple, it's very sparse, and that's fine. My main problem with Petite Knit quite often is, and I think this comes down to the translation, the instructions aren't always very clear. There are a couple of bits where even as a more experienced knitter, and actually even like recently one of my friends when I've been talking about, she's really struggled with some of the, she's a very experienced knitter, and some of the ways that the instructions are worded just don't make a lot of sense. You've got to almost puzzle them out. Whereas Ozettas are basic, they're less basic than Petite Knits. There's more information there, definitely, but they're not like a Knit Pearl Girl or something where it's a really intense pattern or really involved pattern with loads of pages and very wordy. They're much more sparse than that. But everything that you need is there. It is very clear. It makes perfect sense. There hasn't been anything. And one thing I was saying to Leah about was, I don't think I've ever had a pattern where the pickup rate for this was exactly right. And that sounds really weird, but I've come across this with a fair amount of other designers where she tells you to start, I think it's in the back corner, and then for this bit pick up this many stitches and this is your rate, and then for the saddles pick up this and this is your rate, for the fronts pick up this and this is your rate. I don't think I've ever had a pattern where every single section, every single rate and every single count worked perfectly first time. I didn't have to go back and fudge it. Usually I have to go back and fudge it. Even though my row gauge is different on this, my row gauge is quite a bit off, I think, from the pattern. Mine is quite a bit bigger. So for the saddles, for example, she tells you to do a certain number of rows and says you should be at this length. But when I'd measured my length, I got to that length, I think probably about 15 rows shorter than what she was suggesting. My row gauge is clearly quite different, but still the pickups worked perfectly first time. I've never come across that. So it's a very well written pattern, very clear, very much like the aesthetic, and I like the aesthetic a lot of her other ones as well. So I can completely see the hype with those Ozetta, whereas Petite Knit I find a bit more challenging to understand the hype a bit. I do get it with Ozetta, and I'm really, really hopeful that this is going to be an extremely wearable staple that's going to add itself to my wardrobe and is going to be a success. Because my God, I wouldn't half like a win. So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment. This has taken obviously a lot of my time and I've been very much enjoying it. The other thing that I really, really, especially having looked at them now and got them out to talk to you about, the other thing I really want to put some more time in is the Sandro. I just think that's gorgeous. These couldn't be more different if they tried, could they? But yeah, very, very much love how this looks. I guess similar aesthetics, quite clean, quite modern, quite sort of minimalistic in many ways. Even though this is cabled, it's a very minimalistic cable. But yeah, I'm hoping to have, these are the things I'm trying to focus on and work on and put some stuff in along with my husband's. Well, there's a few things for my husband, isn't there? Did I say I've worked some more on his Go For It? I haven't shown it to you because, like I said, I'm not going to show it every episode, but I have now joined for the yoke. So I was working the flat back panel before. I've now joined for the yoke and I'm just working some increases in the round, but there's not massive amounts to show. So yeah, we've had that's everything I wanted to show you, but it's been a weird old week. It really has. And I don't know what the next week or two is going to look like in terms of the amount that I'm going to be able to knit. But again, it's real life. This is what happens. None of us are machines. My body is going to do things and, feel ways that are going to impact what I do. The plan for the next few weeks, next week I'm going to Yorkshire Yarn Fest with Mona. So I'm going to be vlogging that and taking you with me. And I'm probably going to try the little mic actually, since it seems to have been very successful. The weekend after that is when I'm filming the video that I needed this for, so that's an exciting one that's coming. And then I have some other videos in the background that I'm working on, that I'm thinking of, that I've got ideas for. I've got some pan roundup ideas because you guys seem to like those a lot. I might do one of those quite shortly actually. And yeah, we've got some really exciting things coming up. I'm also going to do a roundup probably late November, early December, of how my autumn knitting plans have gone. Place your bets. How do you think they've gone? Ah, dear. But I'm also going to do some future plans for January, February, March, basically sort of winter knitting, I guess, deep winter, early New Year knitting. And I'm hoping to try and put together a small pattern roundup of advent patterns as well, because I said I was going to do that last year and I just wasn't very happy with the patterns that I'd found. So yeah, we've got all that to look forward to. So I hope you've enjoyed catching up. I hope you've got some good rounds or progress or rows or whatever in on whatever you're working on. And I really do love to see what you're working on. So let me know what you've been knitting on or crocheting on or whatever whilst you've been knitting, whilst you've been watching. Yeah, let me know. Let me know if you've knit an Ozetta pattern before. How have you found it? I think there's probably plenty of you looking at how many projects of this there is on Ravelry. But let me know your thoughts. And yeah, that's everything I wanted to catch you guys up on today. I hope you've had a fantastic afternoon, evening, weekend, whatever it is, wherever you are. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.